Hello and good morning. This is Daniel Posney with Shifting Perspectives in Sedona. And today's topic is about something I've touched on several times before because I've kind of had direct experience with it. So here it is again. And it's about being a people pleaser and living in guilt and obligation and how to come out of that, how to heal and integrate that. So what I love doing is giving you the discovery of that, giving you the reason why that usually happens. And then the next step is some kind of distraction. So the process of coming out of an old limiting belief and an old habit or an old program that is not really serving you is to, at least in my mind and my work, is to discover where that came from and have some kind of understanding that really doesn't take very long, just some understanding about where that might have come from and how that served you. And then the second step is some kind of distraction. And in my work, it's either didgeridoo or sound healing or drumming or flute or something that causes the brain to distract itself and get into a more of a receptive state. So it's kind of like if you think of it like a programming language, it's more like a block that stops the programming, causes it to go into a kind of a blank loop. And then the next step is to introduce the feeling that you want to have without having to go through the limiting belief in that old process, and then to embody that new feeling. And I'm speaking from experience. This is what I've done in my own life. And I know I've spoken about this many times before, but I was a people pleaser where I was looking for love by being a nice person, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be a people pleaser or loving, giving, serving person at all, except when it starts to get out of balance and you start getting resentful like I was, and getting into that you start to hate yourself and that kind of thing. So that just kind of led to just an inner anger inside of me and just not knowing any way out of that. And so my mind was sort of saying, you better keep this up because this is the way you're getting love and appreciation. So, but it's like, how do you change out of that? So that's what I want to share with you. But first, let's go into kind of discovering where this usually comes from. For me, it came from just the environment. And that I don't want to get into blaming my parents, although my environment of my parents and my childhood kind of set that up a little bit. So the way that I consider it is that I came in to work on this, and my fellow beings served roles in my life. My brother, my sister, my mother, my father, and others all fulfilled roles so that I could work on this already determined themes that I came in with. So it's not like they caused this in me and now I've got to work this shit out. It's kind of being way before that. So everybody's doing what they can to, cultivate this theme that I'm doing. So the thing that was cultivated was I don't really know how to work with my emotions. There's not really a great environment to talk about these emotions, and the kind of love that I needed, the physical affection wasn't there. And so I needed to find out how to get that kind of love, or my idea of that love, from other places. So I became a really nice, giving, loving person, which is awesome. And but it just kind of, that was like the theme of my life, and that's what kind of ran everything, is that can I get appreciation and acknowledgement by what I'm doing here? So I did a lot of things to get that acknowledgement and get that love. And after a while, it just became, that's all I did was just serving that way. And like it all sounds very spiritual and all sounds very good, but until it's not, until it just doesn't feel great. And so I needed to kind of pull myself out of that. And you can either do this the long way, like I did, because I was stubborn, or you can listen to some insight here, and that's why you're here. So what I needed to do is to start realizing that how I was presenting myself to get that accolades, acknowledgement, appreciation, and that love really wasn't sustainable. And it was kind of, I was like slipping down the hill as I went, kind of thing. So I needed to start to make decisions that were for me. And my first step in that was to tell a little lie. And that's just what I had to do. I can't go to this party because I've got this other thing I have to be at. So where I wasn't really excited about going to this party or this wedding or this gathering or whatever it was, or to help another person move because I had a truck. I needed to give some kind of excuse to get myself out of that. That was the step that I needed to take. But that was a short little span of time to where instead of taking that little lie, I told the truth. And I said, I really am not excited about doing this, or I've got something else planned. And what I needed to do on top of that, make sure I had something planned. So here's the scenario. You got something that you're not really excited about doing, and you're going to be giving to another person that you really feel resentment about being in that situation. And you start thinking, well, I'm going to tell this person that I have something else going on so they can get myself off the hook. The first step is to make sure I've got something. So I needed to start doing it. And what that did for me is that got me something to do that I was more excited about. And I started to think about myself. So the way I feel about it is I'm in partnership with everyone in the world, and they want my soul to evolve. So it's not that I'm trying my best to serve other people so that I'll be this good person. I'm actually working on evolving my soul. And everyone out in front of me is not here to completely receive all the giving that I have to give. They're actually here for me to help me evolve. And the thing that I need to evolve from is this people pleaser, guilt and obligation thing. So if I think of it that way, then I say, okay, if they're here to help me evolve, then whatever I need to do in love and with the best intention, whatever I need to do to kind of pull myself out of guilt and obligation, they are here to love and support me in that. So I started to kind of pull myself out of things by saying, I've got this other thing going on. And little by little, I started to have other things going on. I started to realize that I want to go to the beach. I want to go for a bike ride. But if I don't make that decision, if I don't schedule something, if I don't put something in there as my intention that I want to really go do, I'm sitting there waiting. And then of course, someone's going to call me, someone's going to contact me and obligate me to do something that I'm not really wanting to do. But here's how that works out. Like I see this happening sometimes in my life now too. And it's like, I'm at home, I got the day off, I'm on the computer and I'm spending too much time on the computer. And I've told myself, God, it'd be great to go out in this beautiful weather and go for a hike and jump in the creek. And I'm on the computer. And then of course, my wife comes home and she says, hey, I see you're sitting here. Can you do something for me? And my wife is not letting me, I get into victim consciousness. And that's just what we do. We don't kind of take our gumption to go do something. And then of course that time's going to be filled up, or that person's going to help us realize this. So then I would get into blaming my wife for, taking away my time. And that's completely BS. She's not the one who did it. I'm the one who just stuck on the computer. I should have been out the door. So when I start to practice that, I started to practice doing things that were really exciting to me. And another side note was that I needed to be okay with people with their own opinions about me. So you can be a people pleaser and you can do for so many people. And there's this thing, called karma that people need to work out on their own. And I realized that even with my own kids, the things that I needed to work out, that I thought I needed to work out for them or help them through something, sometimes I probably went a little overboard and I didn't allow them their own experience. And just because they're kids or just because they're someone younger than you doesn't mean that they aren't more evolved as a soul than you. So there's that to consider. So all this doing for other people, I needed to check that and make sure that I was doing it out of a real intention of that I have filled myself up and I feel so good inside and have so much to give that I want to, it's overflowing out of me. So there's a fine line between that, I'm just a giving person and I just give. That's one thing. That's how I did it. But if you could add in there, I'm a giving person, I just give, but I've taken care of myself first. That's the thing. So One phrase that I know you probably heard me say before is, do you love yourself in all ways more than anything or anyone? And that's just a way to kind of get myself into the feeling of filling myself up, and then feeling that that is such a pure, no need for reciprocation, no need for payment back to me, that this is just coming out of me. And that feels so good. So I want to put I want to use fear in here just a little bit, just to kind of motivate you. And I don't really love doing this, but I feel like sometimes we need a little motivation. You probably know that a lot of the work that I do is with cancer patients. And I've been doing this for about 7 years or so. And the majority of the patients that I work with all have a similar common theme going on. I've been giving to everyone else and haven't been taking care of myself. And when I add that on to something that I know from Dr. Gabor Mate, who's an expert in all this stuff, much more than I am, he says there's 3 personality types. And one is type A. You know, type A, they're the doers, the go-getters, and they're going, and they kind of, it's about their identity is what they do. And so they're always engaging in that. And they're the ones that are just in the same room, the same frequency as heart condition and stroke and stress and worry and all that kind of stuff that kind of builds up all that weakens the immune system. So that's one end. And then you've got the other end, which is type C. Those are the people that are always giving to other people, don't really think much about themselves, keep themselves small, but are always, you know, don't worry about me, I'm doing this for you kind of thing. Those are the ones that are in the same room or the same frequency as the cancers and the Lyme disease and the immune system and the autoimmune system, that kind of thing. If you talk to people that have that kind of cancer going on or autoimmune, you can kind of feel like you can hear their story say something like, they're not really in alignment with their life. Something is kind of out of alignment with their life, their job, their relationship. And they're not really taking care of themselves as much as they could. And then the B type personality is right in the middle, that they're balanced in both ways. So that's the one that I want to be of. I want to be a really giving, caring, loving person. And I love receiving acknowledgement and gratitude and all that. But I want to do it from a place of, wow, I've just really loved myself and I've really taken care of myself. And now I've got so much to give. I want to hit a little bit more on the process of this. And this is something that is talked about with different wording from different places, but I've been reading this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you haven't heard about Joe Dispenza or Greg Braden or Dr. Bruce Lipton or Anita Moorjani, there are people that are in Sedona right now as I'm doing this talk. And actually my wife Valerie is at the seminar right now. And they speak about it in a really similar way. And it goes like this. Our mind gets into certain patterns. And unfortunately, the mind gets into negative patterns early on in life. And what the mind does is it sends a signal to the body that says, create more of this. This is something that I know. This is something that I'm comfortable with. And so after a while, the body becomes the mind. And the body starts getting signals to the mind to create more of these chemical molecules and things that feed back into the body. So it just becomes this ongoing loop of the same kind of feeling. And if you've ever talked to someone that's just kind of been in the shit for a long time, and these people have done this, and these people are against me here, and I had to deal with this, it's more that same feeling. And if you narrow it down to the feeling, how it makes them feel, it feels like I'm being cheated on, or the world is a hard place, or whatever the thing is. That whole theme is like this actually chemical processes in the mind that's telling the body to feel this way again and again and again. So it's one thing, the first step is to determine what it is that the feeling is that's showing up. And then if you can, go back into your childhood and see if that one little feeling, what you've narrowed it down to, has probably shown up in your childhood. It's 99% chance that you felt that thing, or you could imagine it being felt there. You don't have to remember it, but you could probably imagine something like that happening. So once you determine that it did happen back then, or you can imagine it happening back then you can stop blaming it on life right now. So that's the first part. It's really important that you take away the energy of what's happening now and really get down to the source of the thing. Otherwise, you're going to keep on blaming what's happening now and the next day and the next day. It happened back then and you carried it with you. So that's step one. Step two is some kind of distraction that changes your rituals that keep on keeping this thing back in the same loop, that this shit keeps on happening to me. And the way that, even old Toltec wisdom, like Aztec Mayan wisdom would say, if you want to change out of a negative pattern, you've got to change your ritual. And all that means is, instead of taking a shower first, then eating breakfast, eat breakfast first and then take a shower. Or it just really hit me when Joe Dispenza was kind of talking to me. I wake up, I put my favorite flip-flops on, I put my favorite robe on, I go out of the room, I go to the bathroom, I go pee, I blow my nose, the cat walks out and then it waits for me to come out of the bathroom. I pick up my phone, I pull it out of the charger, I go to the living room, I start a meditation, I do my thing. It's just the same thing every morning. And rituals are great sometimes, but if there's a pattern that we want to start to shift, we've got to get out of certain rituals. It's like this Groundhog Day that's coming over and over again. So the cool way to do this is to just shift your ritual a little bit. Like instead of spending your day on the computer, go to the creek, jump in the creek, get in some cold water, start to wash off your energy field. Do something that's a little bit different. Read a book instead of going on the computer, or doing something. And sometimes it's not necessarily what the book is, although that can help, but just doing something different. It'll shift the energy, and your mind will have to kind of readjust, and it's kind of like clearing the slate. It's kind of looking for new signals to create more of. So the next thing you do is you say, okay, what is the feeling that I want to have? And you start to get into the bringing the thoughts with how you're feeling and combine those two together. So it's connecting your mind with your heart, or your brain to your heart, so that your thoughts and your mind are in what they call coherence. So when your heart gets in coherence with your thoughts, then you start to manifest and start to create things that actually start to feel good. And you do that, and you can shift your reality and shift your rituals a little bit there, but keep on creating new feelings about what it is that you want to feel. And the cool thing about that is that you start to elevate yourself into higher levels of experience, of happiness, of joy, and manifesting, and that kind of thing. So you're getting out of the default consciousness, the default way that the mind works, and actually coming back into control of that. And it's a great thing to know whatever works negatively for you can actually be used to work positively for you. So that's what I just shared with you. Your mind takes on certain feelings and creates more of those feelings, and then creates these peptides or proteins and chemical reactions that create more of that stuff. And what you see is more of that shit happening in your outside life. But the reality is that there are all these possibilities, trillions and trillions of possibilities out there. And what happens when you see your outside reality, your environment, those possibilities have locked into a physical reality that you've decided through your thoughts and your beliefs. So isn't that cool? That's the negative part of it. But the positive part of it is that through your conscious effort and your conscious feeling, you can reprogram that by following those steps. Determine what it is, or do a little discovery, or where the resistance or where the negative concepts came in. And then the second part is breaking that ritual by some distraction, didgeridoo or sound healing or breath work or something, and then reintroducing this feeling that feels better to you, and just keep on running that feeling. And it's not only about the thoughts, like thinking positively, it's actually more about the feeling, because that's what your body pays attention to. So I hope that really helps. That's what really kind of got me out of guilt, obligation, being a people pleaser. And now actually it's more like I have more love to give. I actually feel like I love more authentically now than I ever have in my life. So I still get to feel the appreciation. I feel the love that I receive, but it's all a very more authentic and powerful way of loving and living. Thank you. I love you. Bless you. Have a wonderful day.